everyone, and welcome back to the Pup and Away podcast. My name is Stephanie. I am your pro dog mom. I am also a certified canine trainer, canine behaviorist, and canine nutritionist, and the very proud owner of Pup and Away in San Antonio, Texas, where we specialize in pet care with the behavioral edge. We do boarding, we do socialization, we do all sorts of training, nutrition content, all that kind of good stuff. If you've listened to some of our other podcasts before, you know how much I am all about for you advocating for your dog. We've talked a lot about how to advocate for your dog at the vet, at the groomer, during any sort of social experience or opportunity that your dog has. But today I'm joined by Krista and Leah. These ladies are really good about advocating for dogs on the mass scale here in San Antonio. So today they're going to tell us a lot about some different initiatives that they have been working on in San Antonio and some resources for you guys. So without any further ado, I'll have these two lovely ladies introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about them. Krista, we'll start with you.
My name is Krista McAnally, and I have been the director of Daisy Cares since October of 2023. Daisy Cares is a nonprofit. Our mission is to support families to keep their pets in their homes instead of surrendering them to the streets or shelters. And we've been doing this for 15 years. We live at the food bank, San Antonio Food Bank. We have a long partnership with them. And we're afforded some infrastructure there that we wouldn't otherwise have as far as our food distributions go. And it was founded in 2009 by Amy Gordon. She had a medical emergency with her dog Daisy, and she kind of made a deal with God and said, if Daisy wakes up, I will start a foundation to help keep pets healthy and with their families. And about 20 minutes later, Daisy woke up. So that's where Daisy Cares came from. We have a pet food program, a emergency veterinary care grant program, and we have an educational program called Project Kindness, where we teach responsible pet ownership to all ages.
Wow, you got a lot going on there then. That's amazing. And you, Krista, how did you get involved with Daisy Cares?
I was getting ready to start my own nonprofit for the emergency vet care grants. And as I have told anyone that has ever bothered to ask, never ever start a nonprofit. There's someone out there doing what you want to do, and the two of you together is always going to be easier than trying to do it on your own. So I found out that Daisy Cares had their vet grant program, and I said, fine, then I will raise money for the vet grant program, give it to you guys, and you can run the program. So that's what we did. I started volunteering for Daisy, and about 2 months into my first project, the director at that time left, and I took it over. It took a minute for me to decide to do that, but I quit my job with Texas Oncology and went to work for Daisy Cares.
Awesome. Very cool. I look forward to learning a little bit more about Daisy Cares. You kind of gave us a very great summary, but I look forward to kind of getting into each one of those slices a little bit more. But for now, Leah, tell us about you, how you got started, and what exactly your interaction with Daisy Cares or some other things are.
Yeah, so I'm Leah LaPort. I'm the founder of No Kill San Antonio. My husband and I got here, actually 3 years will be in May. And when we initially got here, we noticed right away just the roaming and stray dogs and everything. So we pretty much hopped right in. We got involved with going to ACS board meetings and speaking to the council, going to the shelter and taking pictures, adopting, fostering, rescuing on the street. So we pretty much done it all. So yeah, we are just in... With Daisy Cares, we got involved because we met Krista at an ACS board meeting. And so, yeah. And then she invited us to come see the food bank. And then here we are, I think 15 months later. So I'm a development coordinator for Daisy Cares. And I volunteer a lot with a lot of other organizations as well.
Sure, sure. You said you moved here 3 years ago. Where did you come from?
We moved from upstate New York, so
Oh,
very
okay. So
different.
yeah,
Yeah.
the pet the pet industry is very different for sure.
Yeah. I mean, my
What
husband and
is
I both rescued, but it's definitely a different scale coming from New York, upstate New York especially, and then coming to Texas.
Gotcha. So
So,
like the culture shock was kind of a lot, and you said one of the biggest things that you noticed was the roaming of pets. So obviously, walking around San Antonio, any neighborhood, you see three, four
yeah,
stray dogs that they roam the streets for a living. Is that
yeah.
not really something that you saw in New York?
No, and I'm also a dental hygienist, so I work in 6 different offices here in San Antonio. So that's kind of what got me to see more. But then once I started seeing more, I got involved in local groups on Facebook. But definitely you do not see this in New York. You
Gotcha.
might see some deers roaming through New York, you don't see dogs just hanging out all over the street. That's just, yeah, so it was definitely a shock to us, for
Culture
sure.
shock, yeah. And a very
Yeah.
sad one, I mean, for sure. I wish it was the opposite way around and there were even less dogs roaming, but, and I feel that's just kind of something that is mainly more in the South, not necessarily, and why, a lot of rescue organizations will transport up north. Which is all very interesting. So, the two of you guys have obviously been working, advocating for dogs, volunteering, putting together a bunch of different projects and initiatives. And I really want the people of San Antonio, one, to know that these things exist, whether they are looking to use these resources themselves, or if they're looking also to volunteer or to help out in any sort of way. So, let's kind of pivot back over to Daisy Cares. So, Krista, you told us a lot about what Daisy Cares is, how it started, and you mentioned 3 different kind of, I guess, like projects or initiatives in between those. Let's start off with the vet care program. What exactly is that?
So the vet care program, it's for emergent or urgent care only, and it is a grant application that lives on our website. You go onto there and fill out the application. You have to you have to give us information about your income or what government subsidies you receive, and then you also have to give us a written estimate from a veterinary care provider, letting us know what treatment plan the doctor recommends and the diagnosis. The vet grants, unfortunately, are only $250. We budget every year $25,000 for the grant program, meaning we can fund 100 grants in a year. So after the application is submitted, it's reviewed by our project manager, and if she approves it, then it comes to me and one other person, and we look at it and make sure that yes, it does meet the criteria, and then we send the approval to the owner. We can usually do that with less than 24 hours because it is emergency care. We also have a resource guide that goes out to every applicant, whether they're approved or not. It goes out to every applicant, and it lets them know of other foundations that they can also apply to. We work closely with VCA hospitals here in San Antonio, as well as some of the city vet veterinary clinics, and some of them are either willing to match our grant funds, like City Vet Alamo Heights. They match our grants every time we pay a grant to their clinic.
That's awesome.
VCA, each clinic is a little bit different, but like one of them may waive the consultation fees, or may waive medical waste fees, or may waive x-rays, or things like that,
Any
just to
small
make
thing helps.
the grant money go further.
Yeah.
Then you can also apply for, like, Red Rover is one that's very popular. Their grant program is also tapped out at $250. So if you apply and receive grants from both of us, then that's $500. And then if you go to VCA or City Vet, then they'll match a certain amount. So it makes everything, kind of work together.
Yeah.
We're hoping to develop relationships with other veterinary clinics as we, become more entrenched here in the city and develop those relationships. We just recently, which I'm so happy about, got a vet on our board. Her name is Ethel Rainbow, and she is a vet at.
That's the best name.
I know, it is a real name. She is a vet at Banfield. And so now we're kind of developing a relationship with Banfield with her assistance, because a lot of people don't know, and this is something that everyone needs to ask about that might need this type of assistance, is VCA, Banfield, and Vetco all have internal grant programs that you can apply for. It's not something that they advertise. It's not something that they're very open about, but they do have funds available. So if you go to the vet and you need assistance, because maybe paying $250, $300 for a vet visit is something you can do, but you may have to get your pet may require surgery or dental that is very expensive. Then you can ask about their internal programs and see if those funds might be available. So there's a lot of hidden funds. I shouldn't say hidden. There's a lot of
Off the menu.
yeah, of opportunities that are not publicly known. And so you have to ask a lot of questions, just like you were talking about advocating for your pet. That's part of it, asking the questions of, well, how can I get help? And so we want to have Daisy Cares in all of the vet offices here in town. I think there's 400 of them or something like that. But we can't do it alone. We have to partner with the vet clinics. We have to partner with other foundations. We have to partner with the public to support the vet program through donations and support, so that we're able to assist these people and keep these pets at home, because that is our whole mission. I was in rescue for 30 years, and when I found out about Daisy Cares, I'm sure Leah's like, oh my God, this story again. But it's just such an epiphany that I had, because I felt like I had been doing it wrong all of those years, that I was trying to get animals out of the shelters and into homes, when, if you think about it, obviously keep them in the home to begin with, and you don't have to, do all of the rescue work. Not that rescue is not important, it's urgently important, but if we can keep them at home, then it reduces shelter population, it reduces street population, it affects the whole system. And that's what all three of our programs do, is work to keep the pets at home and to educate the people, on the families, on how to care for the pet and what is culturally and socially acceptable. You spoke earlier about the roaming dogs. There's 34,000 of them on the streets in San Antonio. And that's a huge number, and everyone's always like, oh my gosh. But the really big number is that 70% of them are owned. And so that's what Daisy Cares and Project Kindness wants to do, is to reach out to those families and say, it's not acceptable. We're not judging you, but it's not acceptable that your dog is running around. We want him in your home where he's cared for, and we want to help you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to the vet care program, about how many applicants would you say that you get a year? Do you usually blow through the funds that you guys have?
No, and part of that is, okay, so we have $25,000, that's 100 grants. We receive anywhere from 30 to 40 applications a month. However, at this time, we're only approving about 20 or 25% of those applications because we do not receive the information that we need to approve them.
So
The
like doing
hardest
the process
piece-
itself is hard.
Yeah.
Not hard, but
the hardest piece to get is the estimate from the vet because we only pay for urgent care, right? So we can't pay for that initial consultation, right? Our vet funds are only to pay for urgent or emergency care.
Sure.
So we have to work with the applicant to get them into a vet that either, number one, they can afford to pay the initial consultation, or the vet will waive that, knowing that they're working with Daisy Cares and we're gonna pay on the back end after we receive that estimate.
Sure.
And that goes back to us having the relationships with the vets and putting together, a program that is more of a partnership than Daisy just writing a check for vet care.
Sure, sure. What are some things that you look for in the application that tells you like this is an emergent situation and does qualify for assistance?
Well, anything that a vet deems emergent or urgent, we're going to go with that. Obviously, if it's parvo, if it's an amputee, if it's an eye that needs to be removed, if it's any kind of trauma, we're gonna do our best to help with that. Then, of course, there's the obvious, like I said, parvo or any kind of diagnosis that is life-threatening, and treatment would provide a good prognosis for that pet's life. We're then going to step in and do our best to help.
Gotcha. And I love what you said about excuse me, having to work like we got to plug the leak, right? And not just keep putting a bucket to catch the water from the leak. So doing something to help people keep their pets in their home. And I know like there's like statistics for like, the number of dogs that are surrendered to shelters because of behavior and because of illness and things like that. I mean, all of those things are very high. I know for me, how I got Ricci, she's my 7-year-old Schnauzer. She was given to a rescue when she was, like 6 weeks old, because they thought that she had parvo and they couldn't care for her. And so that was, a very sad situation for her, a very happy situation for me, just to put a ray of sunlight on that. But, Rishi luckily had a good ending to that story. Whereas whenever we have people or dogs that are being surrendered to shelters with something that life-threatening, I'm going to assume that places like ACS aren't going to keep a very sick dog around for adoption for very long. I don't know much about that.
I think the first thing you have to think about with shelters like ACS is that, number one, they're going home, that owner surrenders are going to be the first to be put down, because they come into the shelter without that buffer of a 72-hour hold, because that 72-hour hold allows their owner to find them, right? So if it's an owner surrender, they don't need that 72-hour hold to find their family. Their family knows where they are. And shelters look at owner surrenders as there's either a health issue, a behavioral issue, or something that has caused that family to surrender that pet. So, yes, he's going to go through the evaluation process for behavior and that type of thing. But if the shelter is full on the day that he comes in, he's going to be the first one to be put down. And a lot of people that surrender their pets don't know that.
Right.
But that's just the that's just the fact.
You're going to mention something?
They have a medical diversion program. However, it's limited. So it's not, they can't do a lot with that, but I know that that's something that they do have. I'm not 100% sure how it works in the process, but they have that, and then the surrender diversion program, that if you found a dog or want to owner surrender, it's there. But again, it's very limited.
Gotcha. And I'm sure something that we'll kind of cover a little bit more whenever we get to when we talk about no kill. Talk to me about the pet food program, because when I learned about Daisy Cares, that's probably one of the very first things that I knew about it. So talk to us about that.
Daisy Cares pet food program. It has gone through several changes in the short time that I have been with Daisy Cares, and it continues to evolve and change a little bit. When I first got there, pet food was only distributed with human food at San Antonio Food Bank distributions. So we currently now have monthly distributions for pet food only. You register at the food bank through their system, and then we give you the time and the date that we're going to be doing one. We did one just this past Saturday at Delview Park off of 410. We distributed 17,000 pounds of food to about 280 families. So we do this, this is number 7, I believe, 7 months in a row. We're trying to keep it going. This is all predicated on our inventory. We get food donated from lots of different places, Amazon, Walmart, lots of places that I can't think of right now, obviously. But a lot of our food comes from Feeding America, and that is through San Antonio Food Bank. And it's donated, and then any pet food that goes out of the warehouse at San Antonio Food Bank is through Daisy Cares program,
Gotcha.
pet food program. So last year we distributed 927,000 pounds of pet food, and we're hoping to hit 1 million this year.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so 1 million pounds of pet food feeds about 50,000 pets for an average of 30 days, depending on, how many pets are in the household, how big the dog or cat might be, that type of thing. Okay. But on average, if we hit 1 million pounds, we will have fed 50,000 pets for an average of 30 days.
That's amazing. You mentioned if a family was interested in receiving food through the distributions, that they go to San Antonio Food Bank and register there. Are there qualifications for that?
Yeah, you have to answer some questions. It's based again on what other assistance you receive, the size of your family, those kinds of income, those kinds of questions. But we rarely turn anyone away for pet food. It's much easier to get enrolled in our program than it is, some of the other like state programs, things like that. It's not anywhere near that complicated. We try to keep it as simple as we can. And, if we have people come, we do have them. We have people come every time we do a distribution and ask for food. And we go ahead and just register them there on site and give them the food, because they wouldn't be asking if they didn't need it. That's kind of the rule that we look at. It's not something that has any street value. You're not going to go sell this dog food. So if you're asking for it, we want to help you as much as we can. And we do that, yes, by monthly distributions. But we also, this is a piece of our partnership with the food bank that allows us to reach people that we wouldn't otherwise be able to. And that is that the food bank has 500 pantry partners, all in local neighborhoods. So when the pantries order food, human food, from the food bank, it's just like when you and I go on HEB and order food. So one of the things that each of those pantries can order when the food is available is pet food. And so there, not only is it just that once a month distribution, but you can also check with your local pantry closest to you, and there may very well be pet food there. And I think the other thing that has to be said about the local pantries is that there are a lot of people in San Antonio, and this is something that maybe some people don't realize. There's a lot of people that have pets that don't have a car, that don't have internet, that don't have a computer, those types of things. And so those local pantries are their closest point of access to any kind of assistance. And so that's another reason that we really push the pantries to make sure that they have a supply of pet food if their space allows. You know, some of the pantries are very small, and they just don't have the real estate to store pet food. But if they have the ability, we certainly want them to, because it provides a local point of access.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've known about Daisy Cares for quite some time. I didn't know that y'all did monthly distribution, so that's really amazing. And that I also didn't know that you guys partnered with the pantries as well. So sounds like you guys are getting more involved with the community and helping out more families every single month, which is amazing. The last initiative that you mentioned, and I think you kind of also like hit it again a little earlier, was the kindness program. Give us a little bit more information about that one.
So Project Kindness started with Maria Herrera back around 2014, 2015. She developed the curriculum. It's about a 30 to 35 minute slideshow kind of project. We go into domestic violence shelters, homeless shelters, ISDs, pre-K, SA, Girl Scout, Boy Scout groups. Anywhere that there are children is Project Kindness's focus. However, we are not limited to children. Currently, we have 6 presentations that are in a ESL, adult ESL class. And so we've already done 3 of them. I think we have 4 more left. And it's adult students learning to speak English, and we're going in and talking about responsible pet ownership and what that entails. So Project Kindness talks about what it is to own a pet, what you can expect as far as having to feed them every day. They need a home. They need to be inside, included as a part of the family, not on a chain in the backyard. We talk about spay-neuter. We talk about body language. We talk about, what causes your puppy to eat your furniture, right? It's lack of exercise, lack of training. My big deal when I do Project Kindness is for everyone to understand the commitment that they are making when they bring a pet into their home. And I tell the kids, if it's a kids class, I tell them it's just like your mom and dad devoted 18 years to raising you, or a minimum of 18 years of raising you. And you have to make that same commitment if you get a puppy or a kitten or even an adult. You're going to have that dog or cat from 10 to 15, 16 years. So you have to be willing to see that through.
Yeah, that's amazing. You fit all of that within 30 to 35 minutes?
It's kind of, everybody has what's important to them. The slides cover each of those topics. Obviously, you go down the rabbit hole. For my rabbit hole is the commitment issue. Someone else like Leah would be spay-neuter. You would be training, right? So we all have what we feel are the things that need to be emphasized. But we try and cover all of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys are chipping away at a bunch of different parts of the facet, or whatever the saying is.
Yeah. Just this year, just one quick thing I'm really proud of as far as Project Kindness goes. We partnered with Paws for Service. And Paws for Service is a group of 100 therapy dog teams. And so we have 14 therapy dog teams that are now going into different locations and doing Project Kindness with their therapy dog.
That's amazing.
So I think that's really a cool thing, because it is much more, the kids are much more engaged when the dog is there,
Sure. Partnerships are so important. Love that.
Yes.
We talked a lot about how people can get assistance, right? Going to the food bank and registering, getting some help through those distributions, visiting their local pantries. How can people who want to give, volunteer, what are some of those opportunities looking like for them?
You can volunteer to be with us at food distributions, help us load cars, direct traffic, all kinds of things at distributions. We are currently looking for a couple of people to help with the emergency veterinary grant program. We're always looking for people to volunteer to do presentations for Project Kindness. You can volunteer to do pretty much anything that you want to. I always tell volunteers, they'll come up to me and say, hey, we want to volunteer for Daisy Cares. And I always ask them, okay, so what do you want to do? Because we can figure out how to make that happen, right? We have needs, definitely. Social media is a huge need. We have currently we have about 4 people on our social media team. We could use probably another 3 or 4. So I think that it's best. I think people are going to be more engaged if you let them tell you what they want to do. Like obviously if you came to me and said, I want to volunteer for Daisy Cares, I'm going to say, great, we're going to start this new initiative where we have dog trainers come out and meet and evaluate people that have adopted dogs that have behavioral issues. And let them meet with a trainer and talk about those issues and how they can be resolved before they're turned back over to the shelter or the rescue that they were adopted from. And there's lots of initiatives coming down the pike that, we're just waiting until we have the manpower for. So just we want everyone to come to us. We are in the process of putting up a new website, and when we get that website up, we're hoping we're about a week away. There will be a link on there for our volunteer application. So you could just go on the website, go to the volunteer application, fill it out, and Leah or I will get back in touch with you and find out what you want to do and put you to work.
There's no shortage of work that anyone can do.
Right.
Tell us what your specialty is and we're going to find a spot for you. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so I think one thing that you and I have talked about before we started recording, but also something that you haven't mentioned yet, is the SAFE project. Tell me about that.
Yeah, the SAFE project is kind of a brainchild between Leah and I. We got to talking about how we can reach more people to foster. And we came up with the SAFE project, San Antonio Foster Education Project.
So smart.
It is No Kill San Antonio, Daisy Cares, and APAW. Catherine Morrison joined us on this initiative. And so Daisy goes to a lot of places that rescue groups don't go, right? Because if a rescue group does an event somewhere, more than likely they're going to take animals. Daisy Cares tries to go to places that animals aren't allowed, like boat shows and car shows and, things like that, where, yeah, you can bring your dog, but it's not an animal event. And the reason that we go there is because of the SAFE project. And we want to talk to people, they may not even have pets, but we want to talk to people about the need for foster. Because foster is the one thing that rescue can't pay for, right? If the rescue had $1 million, they still couldn't buy fosters. It's just not something that you can do. So we want to talk to people that are not currently fostering. Maybe they've never thought about fostering. Maybe they don't have pets. We want to talk to them about the need for foster. It's one of the few ways that you can affect the number of animals that are euthanized every year, is by taking them out of the shelter and getting them into safety, right? So that is what the SAFE project is about, is reaching people that don't understand the foster process, aren't a part of it. And so we get them to sign up. If they're willing to give it a shot, we get them to sign up. We go through an educational process, and then we have rescue partners that we then refer them to. So
that's beautiful.
That's what it's about.
I love that. I feel like I had a question brewing in my brain and I lost it. Leah, did you want to mention anything about the SAFE project?
No, it's just because Krista and I are just so busy, and so is Catherine, and it's just kind of slow rolling. So we do hope to kind of get that going more because it is so important. But again, as volunteers and all of that is needed. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think, Leah, you shared with me like the PDF of kind of giving what the SAFE project is, and there was a very interesting stat that I don't have word for word, but the stat was it mentioned that 5,000 pets were euthanized by ACS alone in just the year of 2023, and if you said there's what over 3 million people in San Antonio, is that wrong?
No, there's
Something like that.
about 1.8 million. But we
Okay.
could say
And then
two,
you,
yeah.
the stat also said if less than 1% of the population fostered one dog, no dogs would have been put down that year. And what was the stat? It was 0.25%, right? So if a,
0.25.
It's less than 1%.
yeah, it's a
I don't know
quarter
what
of
the exact-
1%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is that's when I read that, it like made me speechless because not even a full 1% of people need to be fostering, and over 5,000 lives could have been saved. And I think one thing that people don't realize is there's lots of different ways to foster as well. Also, something that I read on y'all's little document. Yeah, sure, you can do a puppy foster, a senior foster. Senior fosters are honestly my favorite thing to do. I have a huge soft spot for the senior dogs, especially senior schnauzers. Old men, they're just like my jam. As I don't know if you can even see Sully. Oh, he's hanging out in the kennel. You can't even see him. But I think one thing that people don't realize too is just getting the dog out, even if it's just for the day, right? A lot of the dogs are being boarded by facilities, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So, for example, I have three of y'all's kiddos through Bandera Rescue Mission. Any of those dogs would be so happy to get out. If you were to come volunteer and just take them out for an hour, you can be a foster for a whole hour, and that would make a huge difference in that dog's day. Help out the staff that's taking care of them. So I think people kind of get into this like way of thinking of if I volunteer to foster, who knows how long it's going to be for, what does all of that entail? And I think the SAFE Project's a great way to kind of open up people's eyes that there are many different ways to give back. It doesn't have to be so daunting. And hey, man, even if you work 8 hours a day, that's still better than being cooped up at the city shelter where they possibly will, not see the light of day of tomorrow, which is very sad.
And there's short-term fostering too. I think we just I don't think we're strategic about some of it, and not just like Krista and I with the SAFE Project, just overall, because so many dogs, for instance, are going on transport. We have, with God's Dogs, one of the Bandera dogs are leaving to the East Coast, and they needed just 2 weeks for that dog to be with a foster. So there's always these situations, right? And that could be more convenient for someone, obviously, knowing that it's just 2 weeks, that's it, Sometimes mishaps can happen if a health certificate doesn't pass or something like that, but mostly that dog is going. So I think just really focusing on the needs of what the foster can do, right? It's super important.
And fosters are just so important. Like I said, we have three of your kiddos there. We know a little bit about them based in the confines of how my staff handles them, and can we introduce them to other dogs and things. But for a dog to be fostered in a home environment really allows for the rescue organizations to learn more about that dog and to learn more about the type of family that this dog will be the most successful in. So for example, the kiddos that, I foster at Pup, we don't know if they do well with kids, right? So being able to be in a home environment can kind of help fill in some of those gaps for a lot of rescue organizations and just make an adoption just that much more successful.
Exactly.
And I think another thing to know, and something I'm always pointing out to new people that I'm talking to about fostering, is that most of the rescue organizations that you're going to foster for are going to provide the food, veterinary care, supplies, anything that you need for that pet. it's not going to come out of your pocket, right? For most rescues will provide everything for that pet. So there may be people out there that would be willing to foster if they understood that they did not have to take on any financial obligation for that foster dog or cat. Because people are, that's the first thing when I'm talking to someone new about foster, oh, I can't afford it. No, you can't afford it because it's not going to cost you anything. So I think that's really important that everyone understands that. And if you do have, I'm not saying that every organization out there is going to pay for everything, but there are enough of them that if a financial situation is what's preventing you from fostering, there are organizations that we can help you find that will help you financially. It shouldn't be a stumbling block.
Awesome. You guys also have, y'all have so many projects, but this other kind of organization, I don't know what you want to call it, is the Bandera Dogs Rescue Mission. So something that I think stands apart from Daisy Cares almost completely. I have been involved with it, obviously, since I foster some of your kiddos, but I don't know much about it. How the heck did y'all get started with that? First of all, what is it? Kind of just give me a general outline of what it is, and then how the heck did y'all get started with that?
Bandera Rescue Dog Mission is a hoarding case, plain and simple. The reason that Daisy is involved at all is because the property owner called me wanting information on our pet food program because she couldn't afford to feed her dogs. And so I'm the one that took the call, and so I asked her, I said, yeah, no problem, we can help with pet food. How many dogs do you have? Because I get these calls every day, And she said, well, I think about 50. And I said, okay. And this was a bit of a deja vu moment for me because I had a very similar call back in 2019, I think it was 2017. I had someone call me when I was running a shelter and said she needed food for 50 dogs. And when I went to her property, we ended up seizing a 600 dog puppy mill. And so I just kind of lost my breath when she said 50 dogs. And I thought, I can't do it again. And so at the time I told her, I said, okay, we're happy to help you. We will bring you some dog food. Where are you? She said, I live in Bandera. I said, all right. And so I got some information from her and I said, we'll come up and take a look at the dogs and see if we can help you and I'll bring you food. And I was leery about going by myself. So I drafted Mike, Leah's husband, to come with me. And we took up dog food and we went up there the first day. And we got on the property and the good point is there wasn't 600, so that was a good thing, but there was 66. And so we started talking to the property owner about what her real goals were, and what was she just looking to continue to feed these dogs as they were now. That first day we did determine that she was feeding them dried pinto beans when we arrived. They all, you could tell by looking at them that they were not emaciated, but they were very close to being emaciated. They had some aggressive dogs. They had way too many, they probably had 30, 35 dogs running loose on the property. And then they had probably another 30 in kennels. At the time, we had no idea how many dogs were in the house because we weren't allowed in the house. So the dogs that we saw that first day was 66. And so we gave her the food that we had brought with us and told her that, we'd come back. And she was voluntarily willing to let the dogs in the outside kennels go to rescue. And so when we got back to town, the three of us sat down and talked about it. We started contacting rescues. talking to photographers about going out and getting pictures, all of those kinds of things. So that was in
January.
December of 2023.
Oh yeah, she called and then we went the day
Yeah.
of my vigil.
So we've been up there almost 16 months. We've delivered probably 10 litters of puppies. And yeah, we have about 20 dogs left on the property. And at this point, it has become very difficult, and I'll let Leah go through the process of how we got to this point. But at this point, it's very difficult to get dogs off of the property because these are the dogs that she's closest to, and she feels like she's doing a great job of taking care of them because she's just mentally ill. And so it's become, much more difficult than it was in the beginning to get the dogs off of the property.
Wow. So not only are you guys removing some of these dogs, you're helping out with pet food, also helping out with spay and neuter of some of the dogs that are staying, right? Finding fosters, trying to get these kiddos adopted. What other sort of stuff has been going on these past 16 months?
I mean, all of that, just anything you could possibly think of what we need to do for them. We've gone up almost every single weekend since then, and it's about an hour away. So it's a big time commitment as well. We try to get the local authorities involved, and that's been quite the story too. Just the system, Adult Protective Services. We finally were able to get them to seize 2 dogs out of, now we've gotten 93 off of the property. So it's just been difficult with the way that the system is. Just not holding these people accountable or getting them the help that they need and just letting this cycle continue. Because in their words, it's way worse. There's way worse out there. So they see the worst of the worst, which I'm sure they do. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't, deal with this situation, especially when people are up there on their free time doing all they can to help out. So that's been a big challenge. And just afterwards, you think you're on that property and everything, you're done with it. Well, you're going to get about 30 phone calls someday in a row because you took her favorite dog off. And just the phone calls, the emergencies, they're out of food. We have no money. This dog's dying. What should we do? We need to bring this dog to the vet. Another dog attacked it. I mean, it's just a constant ongoing, full-time beyond.
I don't know how many times Leah and I have gone up and gotten dogs, and we're 10 minutes down the road to getting them into rescue, and she's calling us, telling us that she's calling the sheriff's department and that we stole her dogs and we have to bring them back. And it's just a constant barrage of craziness. Pretty much the last, I can think of at least 5 times after I've left the property, all the way back to San Antonio, I'm on the phone with the sheriff's department, going, no, I'm not bringing the dogs back, and I mean, yes, we had her consent when we took the dogs off of the property, and then she's changed her mind, and I'm not taking them back,
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, but
For sure.
So you guys mentioned that there's like 20-ish dogs still on property. Are y'all still trying to pull some of those dogs also?
Yeah, there's 2 of the originals that were there, and then they picked up 2 more that were in pretty bad shape. Their owner just had them tied up all the time, and they had like the collar marks and all. So there's the 4, and then there's 5, I believe, inside, and then the helpers have some of their dogs too. I'm not sure if we'll actually be able to take those. But we did fix them because there was about 5 dogs that were just the litters. I mean, there were so many puppies. So getting them fixed helped out a great deal. If we could have done that to begin with, but they weren't cooperative, so that wasn't
Right.
happening, and we didn't have money. We didn't know what was going to happen, right? So, but doing that helped out a great deal. So they did let us do that. It took some time to get that rolling. So yeah, we definitely the outdoor dogs, and of course they're seniors, and then they're pitty mixes. So these are the dogs that are a little bit more challenging to get homes for. So they're in medium-sized dogs, but so
Yeah, you can take 93 dogs and multiply times, what you would spend on your dog per year, and you pretty much see the obstacle that we're up against. We have easily raised and spent upwards of about $50,000 on these dogs since
Yeah.
we started. They have all had terrible teeth. They've all had to have dentals. The last dental we had done had to have 13 extractions.
Wow.
and it,
I was gonna say, was that
The
my bandy?
the only saving grace in all of this is not one of them has been heartworm positive, and we
Wow.
have absolutely no explanation for it.
Luck.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. Mosquitoes don't like that piece of property. I don't know.
Thank goodness.
don't blame them.
So,
But
how many kiddos do y'all currently have in foster care right now that are currently looking for adoption?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 6 with us, and then Romeo with Roscoe's Rescue.
Okay, so I got 4 of them, and then Candy and Gabby.
Yep, and then we just got Princess and Missy off, and they're with the foster in Von Army.
Gotcha. Yeah,
So-
no, yeah, Romeo.
4,
Yeah, no,
5.
Romeo is part of my 3. Yeah, okay. Because I
Yeah.
had Bandit, Angel, and Romeo. Okay.
Yeah.
Sheesh, what a story. Just started off with a simple phone call.
right.
It was
Yeah,
crazy.
the legal case I think bears just a moment of our time, because when we arrived on the property, we didn't know it at the time, but we found out shortly after, there was an open adult protective services case for the property owner. There had been many complaints made to the sheriff's department by the property owner, against the property owner. I mean, it's just a vicious cycle. We've had people in rescue say that they've been rescuing dogs off of this property for 15 years, and that we should all just wash our hands of it because we're never going to succeed at getting all of the dogs off of the property, and she's just going to start collecting again. The sheriff's department, we've had the sheriff's department out there numerous times. We've had Bandera County Animal Control out there numerous times, and all of them have been completely useless in trying to help us do what's right for not only the dogs. I mean, yes, that's why we are there, is for the dogs, but they have some obligation to protect and serve the public here. And they're walking away knowing the situation that the property owner is in, and doing absolutely nothing to help us get her into some type of care facility where she can get the help that she needs. And even her family has washed their hands of it, because she's difficult. I mean, she's very difficult to deal with. And so they're just like, we can't do anything. So when they did finally seize those 2 dogs, which is totally ludicrous if you think about the situations that we've been in, and the 2 dogs that they chose to seize, probably 2 of the healthiest dogs on the property. And so to go into a situation like that you have as much history as they have, and only seize 2 dogs, is obscene.
Yeah.
And to do nothing about the woman that is living in the conditions that she's living in is even more obscene. And I got to where I was talking to the person, his name is Mark Beards. I talked to him twice a month, every month, for months and months and months. And when we went in and seized the 2 dogs, he went on the property and she told him that everything was fine and that she didn't want his assistance, and he closed the Adult Protective Services case.
Sheesh.
Yeah. And even when we
a
went
little
to
bit more
court,
than that.
Yeah, and even when we went to court and got the 2 dogs that were seized, we're like, this is not what we need. We need you to go back and get the rest of them, No, we don't have probable cause.
That's, like you said, that's ludicrous.
Yeah.
Wow. So obviously a project that's been going on, a mission that's been going on for quite some time, still have a little bit more. Hopefully there's a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, and fingers crossed that you guys get there. And one thing that you guys had kind of mentioned was how these city organizations, ACS, have been failing. And I think that's one of the biggest things that No Kill SA is trying to bring awareness to. So this is our very last big project that you ladies have been. I don't know how you guys have time to eat, sleep, be human. Like, you guys are so involved with so many things. But No Kill SA is something that I think just recently formed. So Leah, tell me a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so we're just a group that came together to advocate for the animals in the shelter, and we just actually filed with the state of Texas. So now we're considered a nonprofit corporation, and we'll be on our way to file to become a 501c3. And I did put I filed Krista for DBA for Bandera Dogs Rescue Mission and our advocacy alliance, which mostly focuses on all their advocacy work. So we've got those 2 projects underneath No Kill San Antonio. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, we just unite the community to advocate for all healthy and treatable animals to have a chance. We look into a lot of the data at ACS, what's going on, are they meeting their goals, what are their goals, what's their strategic plan. We do a lot of FOIA, which is like open records request. We have just a really great team that puts a lot of, again, volunteers just putting their time into all of this. We go to the board meetings. They're biannual, or every 2 months they have them. And then we go to SA Speak Up, which is about 3 Wednesdays a month, and you get to speak with the city council, the mayor. You just get 3 minutes to speak, but then you can end up getting meetings with them, and we've done that. So we work with a few different council members, just trying to get everybody on the same page and what is it that we, what we can do to make this all better for both humans and the animals. So.
And so is this initiative like trying to get the city to be more responsible, to kind of raise awareness that, hey, these things are things that city officials need to be aware of, so that way we can be forming, laws, regulations around to kind of help protect the dogs a little bit more?
Yeah, so it is like for accountability, right? Someone needs to hold them accountable in a different way than just their management. And so we go about that in looking at the shelter and their policies, their SOPs, seeing if they could be better. Are they following them? And then also enforcement, like you were just saying. We have actually pretty decent ordinances in San Antonio, but a lot of it isn't being enforced.
Right.
So, and then we just look up, how many seller's permits and how many litter permits do we have? Oh, we only have 10 each in a 1.8 million population city. Why is that? And just, we kind of just keep going and partnerships. And why is their spay and neuter goal 50 or 42,000, but they only did 24,000 for the year? And so there's just so much that we do inside and outside the shelter. but we do try to promote like the no-kill equation. It's just an equation. It's kind of like your do it your own. But if one of those pieces are missing, then it's not going to work, right? So definitely want spay and neuter, but you can't give up adoptions and fostering and returning to owner and helping, like Daisy cares pets stay with their owners. So it's an 11 step program, and it's just really important. It's hard work, but yeah. So, and we know we're in a crisis, but that doesn't mean that it's okay to just do what we're doing, you know?
Right. We got here somehow, and by doing nothing, we're not going to get out of it.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. What are some things that you guys have done to kind of raise awareness? I think one thing that I'm aware of was you guys had like a candlelight vigil.
Yeah, so we started that last year. They used to host it, other advocates in the past, and then they stopped. I think the last one was in like 2016 or 17. And so I'm always speaking to all the different, I guess, old G's that have been here and doing this for a long time. And so we came together and was like, why don't we do this? So last January we did it. We did it this January. We also did a really cool chark art event with a local chark artist. That's a tongue twister. Yeah, Lakey 360. He's pretty known here in San Antonio too. So that was really cool. Yeah, and we'll do pop-up events when needed and things like that.
So lots of education components there. And the candlelight vigil was to like honor the dogs that were euthanized by ACS, correct?
Yeah, so it is to honor both, because cats do get killed as well.
Pets,
but
yes.
that's okay. But mostly the majority are dogs at our shelter, at least. Every shelter is different. So yes, it was to honor their lives, because we do feel like they matter and it's important, even if whoever's responsible for it, right?
Yeah.
It still matters.
Absolutely. Everything matters. Matters to somebody.
I think too, SA, No Kill SA is focused on adult care, or I can't get adult protective services out of my head. Focuses on San Antonio adult. That is so stupid. Okay, one more time.
ACS.
No Kill San Antonio focuses on ACS, the shelter here locally. But I think that we also have to look at the county shelters and the smaller municipal shelters, because while the euthanasia rate is high here in San Antonio, it's even higher in the rural shelters and the county shelters. And so that's something that everyone needs to be aware of, because if you live in San Antonio, you're just as responsible for what happens at the Bexar County shelter as you are at San Antonio ACS.
Yeah, and I guess like why we really started too was the funding. So like Krista said, I mean, it's every shelter, I mean, all throughout everywhere in Texas, but with a $32.5 million budget, although I know they are a pretty high intake shelter. I think they almost reached 30,000 for 2024. But it's still a huge chunk of amount of money. And so I feel like, what are we doing with that money? So that's also other things like allocation of funding, speaking to council about that, what changes should be needed, because that's huge. Because some of these small shelters are only like, we went to Kirby, there's only 2 people there, and maybe they take in 150 animals a year. But still, they need the help. Their funding is really small, or their shelter's really small. Their funding isn't great. So it's just a lot. I think that people need to get educated, and it's good to be educated outside of your community, but really get to know what's going on inside your community, because there's a lot to it,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was shocked because I come from Dallas. I moved from the Dallas area to San Antonio 6 years ago, and the Dallas shelter is a high kill, high intake shelter, but not. They're by far and away higher in intake than San Antonio is, and they have like this vastly different budget. When I first got here and learned that ACS had a $28 million budget that was going to be increased in 2024, I'm a statistics person, so immediately I'm like, okay, wait, their budget is 28 million and they take in 20,000 animals a year. That's a lot of money per animal. I mean, that's a lot of money. And the average stay is what, Leah?
I think at the time, I don't have the new statistics, but it was 7 days for all of those animals.
So you figure they're spending around $1,700 per animal, and the animal's only there 7 days. Someone needs to make this equation work for me.
Right.
Because it doesn't. And when you start looking at it, you immediately see that payroll is by far and away the most ridiculous thing on the budget. And so I think that, everybody needs to really take a look at
Pay attention, because it's your taxes if you live here in San Antonio.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just takes someone to just like peek under the rock or pull back the curtain a little bit, and to raise that awareness before people start scratching their head and, asking more questions. And again, that's the first step in getting some of the changes that you guys are seeking.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify too, is that we just want to hold the shelter accountable. We don't want to be the bad guy, but someone's got to be around here. And we do try to work with them. We have meetings with them. We work with them even through Daisy Cares, and we want to work with them, but they need to be held accountable because animals' lives matter. So that's the spiel.
Have y'all gotten a lot of pushback from the shelter, or like people working in the shelter?
Yeah, I know a lot of them when I used to go there and take the videos and pictures to get the ones that were on the list and seen. I did that for about a year, and then it just became too daunting, and it was really sad, just because of the amount that do die the next day. But management hasn't. Some management's okay, some management not. I've been called like a social media terrorist by the old director. We've been in a lot of the news. Certain things are said at the board meetings. Certain board members have things to say. So I just try to still work with them. I do distributions and say, hey, Krista, we should do a food distribution in D1 or D3 or D5. Let's work with the board members, because it's just at the end of the day, it's not about me or anybody else. It's about the animals and the people that need our help. So, yeah.
I think the one thing that I have taken away from No Kill is that, number one, no one understands what no kill means. So that's the first thing you need to educate yourself on. And I am completely non-political. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, a plant. I don't care, But what I have seen from talking to the council people about ACS and about the roaming dog problem and the dog attacks and all of that is that the council people honestly believe that it's going to be solved by throwing more money at it. And it's not. Right. It's not that kind of problem. And so we were kind of hoping that when they replaced Shannon Sims, that it would be they would replace him with someone that would think outside the box, and try and come to a different way of resolving the issue. And I'm not real sure that they accomplished that with Jonathan Gary. I like him. He's a perfectly fine human. But I'm not sure that he's been doing this 25 years in Oklahoma, and they have pretty much the same problems that we have here in Oklahoma City. So I think that is the thing, is the council cannot just continue to increase the budget for ACS and expect there to be a different income or outcome.
Right.
It has to, I don't think Leah or Mike or I have all of the answers to, to fix this problem, but it's not a financial problem. That I can promise you that. It's, or at least it's not a financial problem that ACS can resolve, in my opinion.
Right.
Well,
holy moly. There's so much going on. There's so much to unpack on that. Is there anything else that you want my listeners to know about any of the things that you've got going on, how to be involved, maybe how to keep up with different things that you guys have going on, social media?
Daisy Cares, you can always follow us on Facebook and Instagram. That's the easiest place to find out what we're doing, at least until the website is up and running the way we want it to. So I would say that for sure. And Bandera Dog, that Facebook is the best place to find out what's going on there as well.
Oh, and Instagram too.
Yeah, and Instagram. There's donation links. If you want to support the work that Daisy does, there's donation links on Facebook and Instagram. And they will, of course, be on our website. And it's the same with the Bandera Dogs. If you want to support our work up there, we would greatly appreciate it. And the Facebook page or Instagram is the easiest way to do that. And I will also, like I said earlier, I'll provide you with those links to Stephanie so you can post them.
Yeah, we'll put those links in the show notes. So then that way, all you have to do is click on your phone or whatever it is that you're listening on and be directed directly to all the organizations or whichever one called to you the most, so that way you can learn how to be involved. Well, Leah and Krista, I thank you guys, 1, for being here with me, 2, for all of the work that you guys do. I knew that you guys did a lot. You guys opened my eyes to even more that you guys do. I don't know how you have the time to, like I said earlier, to eat and sleep and to be a normal human being and to have, your actual 9-to-5 job, Leah. You're also a dental hygienist and doing all of the things. I encourage you guys to keep up the fight, and hopefully you guys get a little bit of some help from some of the listeners, but at least at the very end of the day, you guys created a little bit more awareness to your cause, and that we need to be speaking up for the dogs a little bit, all the pets a little bit more. So I appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, and we'll send you the link to, if anyone is interested in fostering, we would love to have you go over to the SAFE Project and sign up, and we'll get in touch and answer any questions that you have and try and get you headed down that road, because that is one of the most important things any of us can do is foster.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And we want to thank Pup in a way,
yes,
because
holy
you
moly.
have saved us so much.
I think you had 11 of our dogs and possibly more coming in and out all the time. So if it wasn't for you, those dogs wouldn't have their chances. So
well, that makes me very happy. I have the kennel space, so I'm here to help out whenever I can. But yeah, we are also getting very full. We partner with a couple of other different rescue organizations, and I had to start limiting everybody because we only have 19 overnight kennels. And so we don't have a ton of space, but I'm happy to help out because all the kiddos that you guys have brought us, they're all super sweethearts. I plan to do a social media post kind of introducing them a little bit more. I spent a lot of time with Angel today in daycare, and she's such a sweetheart, and she definitely deserves to find her home finally, because she's been, I should have looked that up before we got on.
September.
Yes, in September. Okay. Yeah. So what is that? 7 months with me.
Long
so
time.
yeah, what poor girl. She's doing the best she can.
Yeah.
But we'll find her a home.
She is doing remarkably well compared to what she was like on the property.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I mean,
Amazing.
yeah, there were times that we couldn't get in the kennel with her. That she was like, yeah, come in here, I dare you.
Oh, sweet girl. Yeah, she does have a little bit of stranger danger, but even she's been able to work out a lot of that, and she's pretty nice to any of the new staff that we have that comes on and meets her. So
Well, that's a
I'm
huge
proud of her.
change, and we appreciate it more than you'll ever know.
Oh, we appreciate that, guys. All right, so everyone, thank you so much for joining us and for listening, and we will see you guys on the next episode.
Bye.
All right. Now, that might be the end of the episode, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Follow us on social media. I'd love to connect with you. We have quite a few social media platforms. For nutrition and holistic pet care tips, follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Steph the Pro Dog Mom. You can find fun training tips on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Pup and Away SA. If you're in San Antonio and you want to bring your dog to us for boarding, training, socialization, and nutrition, come find us. But if you're not in San Antonio, we do training and nutrition sessions virtually. Yes, they can be just as effective, I promise. Please rate, review, and subscribe to my podcast on whatever platform you listen on. And please, please, please share with a friend. The positive reinforcement of knowing people actually listen to this and find it valuable helps motivate me to keep on recording. We'll see you guys at the next episode.